What is it that we're trying to do within these Holy Week sessions? With these questions that are asked in the narrative of the Gospels around the events of Easter week. For me, part of that is to allow these questions to question us, open us up in some kind of way. This question of Jesus comes after he turns over the tables in the temple courts. He's come in the day before in the Palm Sunday entrance with all the hallelujahs and palm branches. These courts are full of stalls, and their origins lay in enabling worship, enabling the sacrifices called for in the Old Testament covenant. Various animals provided meant pilgrims didn't need to bring the animals with them on the journey. The money changing was to allow Jewish coins rather than Roman coins to be used in the temple, coins which didn't carry the face of the emperor. But these practices of faith had become corrupted, exploitative, a failure of worship. Drawing in two moments, two declared words of the Lord from the prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah. Jesus' question is probing and asking what lies at the heart of all that we do in the name of our faith. This may be a particularly good question to ask just now, when so much is up in the air and our faithful practices are all in a process of change. And the things that we normally do under the guise of faith and following Jesus, have we lost sight of the heart of God? When we look at the words that Jesus uses from Isaiah and Jeremiah to name what he is doing, there is a similar criticism coming through God's word, which both prophets are called to speak. From Isaiah 56, there is this: "My house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples." This word of the Lord is spoken into a context of returning exiles, and amongst them are foreigners, those who aren't Jews, and also eunuchs, those who have been damaged in exile, cut so that they can serve the Babylonian kings and others. Under Deuteronomy 23:1, neither of these groups can enter the temple. And yet here is Isaiah opening up the heart of worship and declaring that it is about breaking such divisions. "These I will bring to my holy mountain and give them joy in my house of prayer." Where that commitment to a heart that looks outwards in worship is lost, Jesus will come and overturn our tables. In Jeremiah 2, that description of the temple as a den of robbers in chapter 7 comes because the heart of temple worship has turned away from justice amongst the peoples of the earth. Here is this word to Jeremiah that he gives to the people as they face the impending power of Babylon and the prospect of exile. He says, "Do not trust in deceptive words and say, 'This is the temple of the Lord. This is the temple of the Lord. This is the temple of the Lord.' If you really just change your ways and your actions and deal with each other justly, if you do not oppress the foreigner, the fatherless or the widow, if you do not shed innocent blood, you will live here." Both Isaiah and Jeremiah, as they are speaking the words of the Lord to those either going into exile or coming out of exile, both of them identify the act of worship as taking place where our hearts are directed not simply towards the Lord, but to others, to those who are not us. Where that is not taking place, then worship is no longer taking place. And the Lord's house of prayer for all peoples has become a place of robbing, of taking away. And Jesus overturns the tables in the temple courts, teaches through the words of Isaiah and Jeremiah. He's saying this is that, this moment here, where we are now, in this temple with all that is happening here, this moment is that moment of Isaiah, or that moment of Jeremiah, when you're making choices in how you worship. And these choices are taking you away from the Lord, not towards Him. What the earlier video showed well, I think, and the reason I showed it, is that it brings out the confusion of those who were doing the selling of doves or whatever it was they were selling. They thought they were just part of the way that people could get to worship, how they could sacrifice in the ways called for under the covenant. And this is the real challenge of the question and action of Jesus, the confusion of those who thought they were enabling worship, while all the time they were getting in the way of worship. Jesus, in His question, calls us to keep the direction of our hearts right in worship, to keep it right when we are in the courts of the Lord. And that direction is not, and never has been, solely towards God. It is, and always has been, towards the other, towards those who are foreign to us and different to us. Our heart in worship is intended to go in both ways, towards God and towards others, or it is no true worship, and we're simply getting in the way of the Lord as He makes His house of prayer for all peoples. We could turn to Micah's word. What is it that the Lord requires of you? Overwhelming sacrifice? No, it's this: to act justly, love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. The heart's direction is both towards the Lord and to others. This is worship. This is why here is a backdrop to this word. A few days ago, racist graffiti was sprayed across the back of this clubhouse in Lynn Park. Now thankfully it's all been cleaned off, but worship that does not seek to upturn the tables, which allows these divisions to thrive, is not worship. Tables need overturned. In James Cone's book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree, there is a constant identifying of the cross of Jesus with the lynching tree in the songs of the deep south of the US. Those singing are saying this moment is that moment, in songs like "Were You There When They Crucified My Lord?" These songs do not separate out the way we follow God from the way we treat others. To let the cross speak to us now. Identify both ourselves and others as each needing the grace of the cross together in this moment now. Where we seek to stand in a different place to manipulate and enable worship in a practice of faith which excludes people from Jesus, then I suspect Jesus will also come to us and start turning some tables over. There is maybe an opportunity now, as the pieces fall to the ground again, after the upheaval of all the last year, to ask when they fall again, are they falling in a better way, one which does not need upturning?